Purchase your tracks today.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again we'd like to welcome you to this celebration of 25 years. But first,
this is just a fraction of the Ngamba family. And they have been part of the last 25 years that we're celebrating here today. And if you know how to panthoot, normally panthoot is a greeting among the chimpanzees. One starts, needs a few notes, the others join in, respond to the panthoot, and we all expect you to join. So Innocent, could you start us off? Thank you very much, guys. So with me here is really one of the things that is going to start me off on my speech today. Yeah. Ngamba Island today celebrates 25 years of existence. 25 years ago in 1998, Ngamba Island started off as a sanctuary for orphaned and rescued chimpanzees. And its biggest success has been because of these guys. Give them a round of applause. And many others that have not been able to come and join us here today. There are those, of course, who continue to care for the chimps at the sanctuary. But I'm happy that most of us are here. Michelle, also glad to see you. Where's Kelly? Kelly is not part of us. Kelly, why are you over there? Okay, thank you very much. You can take your seats. Another round of applause. The entire week we've been celebrating 25 years, and we started this campaign back in January and had a number of events which are not ending with today. Today is only the main celebration, the Gala dinner, but we'll be having celebrations all year round. We started off with a tree planting campaign in Hoima. We did live streaming of interactions with children across the world in partnership with the JTIs, especially JTI Austria, JTI Netherlands, and the JTI Switzerland. And this week we were honored to receive Dr. Jane Goodall. Dr. Jane Goodall was one of the founding members of Ngamba Island Chimpanze Sanctuary. She came. We were chatting with her earlier on when we picked up from the airport on Sunday. And all week long she's been telling us a story. She's been telling us this story over and over again, but every time you learn something new. Jen, of course, most of you know that she started her journey back in Tanzania, the Gombe Stream forest, studying chimpanzees. And then she mentioned something that was the best time of her life. That is the time when she had the best years of her life. In the forest, listening, connecting with the wildlife, getting to understand the chimpanzees in particular. But at some point she felt, when she heard what was happening with chimpanzees elsewhere, she felt that she needed to do a lot more. And that is when she left. You know, she made a sacrifice to leave what was making her feel most comfortable, happiest in her life, to try and do a lot more, to inspire hope in other people, to spread awareness about the plight of the chimpanzee. And she came to Uganda for the first time in 1985. At that time, we were going through quite a tough time as a country. There was a lot of trafficking of chimpanzees, and that is where the discussion started. I'll leave Peter to tell that story. It is one of his favorite stories about the famous 4. I even thought you'd have told it already by now. There were 4 chimpanzees that got trafficked from Uganda, went to USSR, at that time it was still called the USSR. They were repatriated back, and then they were again smuggled out of the country into Turkey, And that was just because a journalist made that a story, but that had been going on for so long. The illegal trafficking of wildlife, and specifically for chimpanzees. Because there was a high demand for them. They are so similar to us, 98.7% DNA shared. And because of that, they have been exploited all their lives, mostly for the benefit of us. And that is why it is our responsibility to take care of them. Yeah. Like I already mentioned, these guys that have been here at the stage are really what has made the Chimpanze Trust what it is today. I'll keep saying Chimpanze Trust on Ngamba Island. Ngamba Island started out as a project of the Jane Goodall Institute in Uganda. Jane Goodall Institute, like we had before, was started, the Uganda chapter was started here in 1991. Yeah. And from then on, the groundwork started to get Ngamba Island Chimpanze project at that time, that's what it was called, to get started. And a number of you that are here were involved in that project. Professor Ephraim was one of the key people. The gold rings, there were a few others. They got together with the Jane Goodall Institute and started looking for the resources to set up a sanctuary. And their vision came to pass in 1998 when we had the first 15 chimpanzees step foot on Ngamba Island. And that is that is the moment that we're celebrating. The first 15 chimpanzees arrived on Ngamba Island. They had been kept in different situations. I think 11 of them were on a small island called Izinga, which was not ideal. And Ngamba was already something that had a forest, a pristine forest, with a small habitation of fishermen, and was available for sale. I'm really spoiling other post stories, so I'll stop there. That is Sudhil's story. Mr. Sudhil was also involved in that, in getting in fundraising, in helping with fundraising to get the resources that purchased this island, and also getting the resources that set up the first facilities. Innocent. Where is Innocent? What is happening? I'm waiting for you, I'm buying time. I had a few pictures I wanted to share, but it looks like, as always, these things don't work when you want them to work, so I'll go ahead. So, like I was saying, I really picked out my lessons. I've been with the Chimpanze Trust now for 10 years. I started out as a veterinarian, I'm still a veterinarian, as a sanctuary manager. I became the operations director, and I was mentored by Lily, who was the first Ugandan director. And I'm still trying to fill her shoes 5 years down the road. But I think I'm doing well. How do you say? Thank you, thank you. So one of the things that I learned from her and from my predecessors were just a few things that really make Ngamba what it is today. One is these guys that were here. I've worked in different places, I've interacted with a lot of different people, but people that work with animals are special, they're special kind. I think anybody that has interacted with them will know. You have to really be a special kind to work with animals, to love animals, to be compassionate about them, to feel for them, to understand them, and to relate with them. And like Jen always tells us in her story, that her best teacher was her dog. What was the name again? Rusty. Yeah. Who taught her that animals do have a soul, that animals do have emotions. And for me, being a veterinarian, I'd always worked with animals. There was something extra special with the chimpanzees. I've worked with other wildlife, I'd worked with hyenas, I'd worked with antelopes, I'd worked with pets, dogs, cats. I love them to bits, but there was something special about the chimpanzees. Yeah. There was something extra special about them, and everybody has that story. If you've worked with chimpanzees or any animal, that there is that special story that really tweaks your heart, or something that really connects with you emotionally. And for me, it may not be necessarily the favorite chimp, but that was my connection with a young chimpanzee called Naku. I had been working at Ngamba Island by then about 3 or 4 years as a veterinarian, And as the veterinarian at the sanctuary, the chimps do know who I am. So they know exactly what I do, and some of them don't like it. You're ready to go? Let me first finish this story. Naku is a young chimp. She's not so young right now, but at that time she was quite young. And she's very low ranking. Like most species in the animal kingdom, we enjoy a kind of hierarchy, even amongst us humans. That is why there are people who sit at the high table and there are those who sit at the back, isn't it? So, Naku is very low ranking. So she doesn't really interact with the keepers, she doesn't interact, she had never interacted ever at all with me, personally. And many times when such chimpanzees, even when doing health checks or anything, we always use the keepers that have a certain connection with them to get something to connect with them to get us what we need to get, either to deliver medicine or to get them to do something that we want or whatever it is that we might want to do. So this particular evening, Naku comes in, she hangs back. As always, she's a low-ranking chimp, hangs back in the raceway, and we're wondering why isn't she coming? You know, she normally wants to come in early, take her porridge before the big boys come in and they'll disrupt it. And then she kept calling out to me, beckoning to me. They actually beckon, they know how to do. Yeah. And calling, oh, 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 oh. And I thought she was calling Stanley or one of the others, you know, those are the guys who are normally dealing with the chimps. But she fixed and locked her eyes with me. So I approached her. And then she reaches through the bars and gives me her arm. It was her left arm. And I noticed that the arm was swollen. And I got hold of her arm. I examined her arm. It was quite febrile. I noticed immediately that she had broken her arm. The forearm, both the radius and the ulnar, and she must have been in intense pain. As I examined her, I could see tears welling up in her eyes. But she trusted me. She knew exactly what it is that I was doing and that I could help her. Yeah. So she allowed me to manipulate the arm, and even right there, I attempted to set it. But that connection to know that I needed to get his attention, to get the help that I need, really did it for me. And that is really something that drew me very, very close to the chimpanzees at Ngamba Island. I treated her, she recovered, and we've been friends ever since. So for many of you that are here, you know a lot about Ngamba Island, you know a lot about chimpanzees, so I don't really want to bore you much about the chimpanzees. I was saying that we just have a few success stories, but I'll summarize what it is that we do for those that do not know. Innocent, if you're ready. Ngamba Island started out as a project of the JGI in 1998, and it was not until Lily came on board as executive director that now the Chimpanze Sanctuary and Wildlife Conservation Trust, which in name was there, was first registered as an NGO, an independent NGO. And since then, we've grown. We continue to have the Chimpanze Trust. Many of you get confused, what is Chimpanze Trust, what is Ngamba Island? Chimpanze Trust is the NGO, a non-government organization, that manages Ngamba Island Chimpanze Sanctuary, which is our main program of animal welfare, and we care for the chimpanzees at the sanctuary, of which now we started with 15, like I said. We now have 53 orphan and rescued chimpanzees. A few have been born there. We have an education and awareness program. And like I said, because we are founded by JGI, creating awareness and educating the communities and the world about the plight of the chimpanzees, about what it is that they can do, what actions they can do to make changes in their lives is very pivotal to us. It is very, very similar to, actually it is a replica of the Roots and Shoots program, but because we don't want to step on our big brother's toes or our mother's toes, we simply call it our education program, but we do exactly the same thing. We go out to schools, we talk to them about environment, we talk to them about their own situations at their homes, and we discuss and engage and they let us know. And these young people are very, very intelligent. They come up with their own solutions. They recognize the problems that they have, and then they devise projects and programs to take action to make changes in their communities. And then we also have our final program, we call the conservation program, which is really about trying to protect the habitat of the chimpanzees. So those are our three main programs. As an NGO, we have a board of trustees that are led by institutions. We have our founders, Jane Goodall Institute, the Uganda Wildlife Authority, whose mandate it is for taking the responsibility of all wildlife in Uganda, and Uganda Wildlife Education Center. Those are literally the permanent trustees. They're never ever going away anywhere. We won't allow them. Then we also have the Eco Trust. Eco Trust came on board because at that time we were not being registered, and we had acquired land and it needed to be owned by somebody. And Eco Trust is an organization that holds land in trust for conservation. So it stepped in right there. Born Free Foundation, there are a number of other trustees that were there in the beginning that are not there. At that time we had IFO, we had Wildlife Society, but over time there have been changes. The three that don't change are UWA, UWEC, and JGI. Now we have, those are the board of trustees. Then we have a board, and we have 9 members, one from each of the trustees, and 2 others that the board incorporates to make them 9. And one thing that is unique about these board members is that they're all volunteers. I think I always tell my other people that for me, I'm fortunate to have such strong institutions that individuals are usually used to being paid, to be in boards elsewhere, but they volunteer their time and they have remained committed and passionate. I don't call for a board meeting and they don't show up. They do. They don't give lip service. They actually contribute, and they have contributed a lot to making the Chimpanzee Trust what it is today and bringing Ngamba Island to the heights that it is right now. Locally recognized and internationally recognized as well. Then there's us that do the work, led by currently myself, the executive director. We are not a very big team. We're only 38, but you will feel our impact, and I'm sure you have. So, like I said, we have our programs, animal welfare, and I was thinking about this because I was thinking about what it means to be a person that works with chimpanzees. We do rescue, we do rehabilitation, we do education, and some of these are the chimpanzees that ended up coming to Ngamba Island. And some of the programs that we do for rehabilitation, like painting, again, Jane has a story on that. And then those are the caregivers that look after them. And this is what it looks like. We have part of the sanctuary fenced off as a forest, which we maintain in its pristine conditions, where the chimpanzees are able to express themselves in an environment that is as close to what they would experience in the wild. We do, of course, veterinary care, and that is where I started out from. And that program also helps us to train a lot of veterinarians. All those around me are students. One of them is here, Nelson. And they have benefited quite a lot from this program, where they can get to understand animal health and care. Then this is the other program talking about. So, Innocent, we can just go through this quickly. Like I said, we do tree planting, we do community, we do programs to fight poaching, traffic, bushmeat trade. We do human-wildlife conflict mitigation. We do interventions where chimpanzees get injured or trapped. And that is also part of what we do in human-wildlife conflict mitigation. There are a number of programs in that. We also have our education program, like I already talked about, but we can go quickly through these as well. Like I said, we do community outreach, school outreach, and we do radio drama. I'm really proud about this program, and it was started by one of my colleagues, Silva, under the leadership of Lily. It has really been a huge success, and we're currently into the season. This program, I want to spend a few seconds on it, was initially started as a drama program where we went out to a school and we asked them what it is that you can do, and they decided to come up with a play. Which play was so great, so fantastic, we made a competition out of it with the other schools. And they emerged winners, And because the play was so good, we thought that we needed to share this information because it was speaking about the real life situations that these children were talking about. So we got a little funding and did a radio drama, and my colleagues are there responding to questions from the audience after an episode. Because we saw it was so impactful, it was reaching to so many people and getting a lot of response, we again now evolved it into a second season, a third season. Wouldn't you like to come and visit? Aha. So this is the team I was talking about. Now, working at Ngamba Island, you have to have many skills. You have to be a nutritionist. You have to be a nursemaid to be able to take care of orphaned or rescued chimpanzees, because some of these come in when they are very, very young, they're infants, and they need that physical touch. You need to be a teacher of both young people and old people. You need to be a carpenter, you need to be a welder, you need to be a plumber, you need to be a diver, you need to be and all these are part of what it means to work on Ngamba Island. It is not simply feeding the chimps. So that is why I'm so proud about these guys, because they are multi-talented. I was wondering, should I really share this? Because in the recent past, some of my guys are being stolen away from me, yeah? By people who are offering them a lot more than I can. But for me, I always think it is okay, because everybody that has left the Chimpanzee Trust has only gone on to do something bigger and better, but with the same goal of conservation. Another thing that has made us really successful, I'm about to end, don't get bored, is our partners. Innocent, just go through them. I can't read all of them, and they're not all there. From the ministry, UA, UEC, EHTTI, many of our staff come from there. Uganda Wildlife Research Center, many of them also come from there. Continue. The Ministry of Water and Environment. Now I'm still talking about government agencies. The NFA, NEMA, the Jane Goodall Institute. Now, this one is a big global thing, so there are very many, but these are our main sponsors. Austria, Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, Uganda, and USA. And they really contribute almost 40% of our budget. IFO was a founding board, part of our board of trustees in the beginning. Born Free Foundation, part of the founding board and still current board member. The African Wildlife Foundation, WCS, who are even partnering with us this week. EcoTrust, part of the board. The Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, whom we work with to reach out to schools. The Friends of Chimps, this is a foundation that was specifically set up to support Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary in the US. These are coffee guys, they keep supporting us. The Ruparelia Foundation, I wanted to say a little bit about that, but Mr. Sudil seems to have walked away, but he will come back and tell the story. He has really supported us from the word go up to now. The Tiang Group, and they have also a foundation under there. Taba really stepped in for us at a time when we were going through a big crisis in 2020, when we had flooding and we had the lockdown of COVID. They provided for us food for one entire year, a full year. And since then, they have continued to support us. Total Energies, they have given us support. Many times, whenever I speak about Total Energies, it sounds a bit controversial, but you'll be happy to know that even at the onset, from the beginning, one of the people that contributed, or the companies that contributed to setting up Ngamba Island was Total. At that time, it was not called Total Energies, it was simply Total. And they have been with us on this journey since then. The Mandela Group, and there are many others. I think there are many others, I couldn't finish all of them. So to close it off, this is the last reason why we have been successful, the chimps themselves. Aren't they gorgeous? They give us a reason to keep doing what it is that we are doing every single day. As we see them emerge from the trauma that they have gone through when they get to us, to what they turn out to be right now. It gives us hope that we can even do more. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to me. As I go away, there's going to be a small video
just showing
to show you a little bit more of things that I couldn't put into words. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Joshua Rukundo. Ice skating.
Ice skating.
Ice skating. Well, it's a bit of a sad story, but this is where the seed of Ireland was planted in 1989. 4 chimps, Jim, Masiko, Megan, and Sunday, were the ones that triggered the establishment of this sanctuary. They were at Uwek Zoo enjoying their lives, and then one October night, they were quietly smuggled out of Ngamba, out of Uwek Zoo, and they disappeared. This was around 1989. And they looked for these chimps for many years, and they couldn't find them. But in 1991, in Rome, Traffic, an agency that deals with illegal traffic of wildlife across the world, was tracking a gibbon in Rome. And this gibbon led them to another gibbon. And together with that gibbon, they found 4 chimpanzees. These were the chimps that had disappeared from Uwek Zoo. They had brought to Rome by a Russian circus, and they were ice skating. So traffic confiscated them and tried to bring this international dealer to book. But it was very elusive. Somehow he slipped away, and they chased him through Italy, Austria, and Hungary, eventually getting him in Turkey, where they rescued these chimps and brought them back to Uganda. These chimps were then reunited with a group of other chimps on an island called Isunga in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and then that's where the spark came. The Jane Goodall Institute, together with the Conservation Breeding Specialist Group of the IUCN, conducted a workshop here, Population and Habitat Viability Assessment workshop. I'm sure Honorable Kamuntu, who was instrumental in that, and Jane herself, who called and pushed for this, and pushed through that agenda.
And happier still is the fact that 3 out of 4 of those chimps
are still alive.
Still live
They
today.
still
You
live
can actually
today.
see them.
They
But what's shocking is chimps ice skating, and I can't even skate on cement. Are you trying to say that the chimps are better than me, eh?
Oh, sorry.
Did you say
you'd hold it
absolutely?
against me. You hold it against me. But we'll have many stories like this, and it just goes to show the plight of chimpanzees.
Absolutely.
It goes to show the pain that they go through, and the effort. I really want to commend the effort that so many organizations, the government of Uganda, Uganda Wildlife Education Center, Traffic, Conservation Breeding Specialist Group, the Jane Goodall Institute, several other partners, all that effort collectively came together to get just 4 chimps back, and just shows that every individual matters, like Dr. Jane Goodall always says.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And bring them back. Thank you. And then we move now to our next important guest, who will be giving us briefings, and that is the chair of the board of the Chimpanze Trust. Please help me welcome Dr. James Musinguzi. He's also the executive director of the Uganda Wildlife Education Center. Just a few remarks.
The Honorable Minister of State for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Martin Mugara, our dear Permanent Secretary, Doreen Katsime, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, conservationists, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. James Musinguzi. I'm the Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, but also the board chair of the Chimpanze Trust. We are proud to be here, and I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you, the board members who offer policy guidance and direction. I beg that you introduce yourself individually for people to know you, because you're doing a great job. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Alice Masharia, and I'm the Vice President of Africa Programs with the Jane Goodall Institute USA office.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Goreti Masade. I'm currently the CEO of the Uganda Institute of Banking and Financial Services, but I was previously working at the zoo as a business manager at the UEC.
Good evening, everyone. Lilia Jarova is my name. I worked at Ngamba for 14 years, and I'm so glad to still be serving on the board of Ngamba.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Stumpy. I am the president of the Pan-African Sanctuary Alliance and co-founder of Children of Conservation, which is also a partner for Ngamba.
Good evening to all of you. My name is Ngamba James. I'm the executive director at Jane Goodall Institute, Uganda.
Thank you very much. I would like to recognize our special guest, Dr. Jane Goodall. You are welcome to Uganda. And thank you so much for the great support that you give through the Jane Goodall Institute all over the world to this sanctuary. We are very proud of that. Ladies and gentlemen, the team you see here joins hands together to lead the policy formulation and direction of the Chimpanze Sanctuary. We are very proud of the staff that we lead because, as you see, our work is purely about passion, and the staff have demonstrated passion to get the results that you have seen. We need to clap them, ladies and gentlemen. As the board, we've been working very hard to make sure that Ngamba remains a going concern, with special emphasis on the welfare of the animals that are in our care. The other programs that we do, including the outreach programs and institute conservation, complement the main work we do with the animal welfare. We would like to thank everybody, but Sam, you should be here. Mr. Sam Mwanda, you are a board member. Sir, please come here. Join us, Mr. Sam Mwanda, please. The Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Authority. Welcome him. Yes. Please, sir, introduce yourself.
I do not directly sit on the board, but my colleague John Makombo, who unfortunately is in the field, sits on behalf of Uganda Wildlife Authority. That's why I was feeling nervous to come. Thank you.
It does so on your behalf. Thank you. So, yes, we are very grateful to the support of the various partners that have been enumerated by the Executive Director, because we are because you are. You really support us to be able to make this sanctuary a going concern. We are very, very proud of you. We don't want to enumerate all of them. The Executive Director has done a very good job in doing that. But of course, I would like to ask that we clap all the partners. Let's clap them. And of course, I cannot fail to single out the government of Uganda, which has given us an enabling environment to be able to do what we do. So on behalf of the board, I would like to pledge that we are going to continue doing this because we love it, we love what we do. We are going to continue supporting and giving policy direction to the island. And of course, for the next so many years, thank you for coming on board, congratulating us on the 25 years and all the series of activities that we've gone through so far. We welcome you and wish you a great time as you celebrate with us, as we look forward to the future, looking after the welfare of the chimpanzees in our care, as well as the other programs that we do. We thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Enjoy the evening, and I thank you.
Good evening. I thought, having come late and yet I was supposed to welcome you, I would be skipped off the program because we have gone a long way. But I'll just say very few words. Honorable ministers, and when I say ministers, I'm recognizing Professor Kamuntu, who is always my minister, Honorable Bahinduka. I don't know if we have any members of parliament here. Your Excellencies, members of the diplomatic corps, we welcome you and we thank you for being here. Our development partners, board members and executive directors of Ngamba, but other affiliated institutions, distinguished members of the private sector, members of the academia, representatives of NGOs, representatives of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today we gather, or tonight, we gather on this joyous occasion to commemorate a milestone that speaks to the spirit of endurance and compassion as we celebrate the silver jubilee of Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary, a symbol of commitment to fostering partnerships for coexistence with our precious companions who are the chimpanzees. Several times our president says they're our cousins, and he wonders how some people can mistreat their cousins and relatives. So 25 years ago, Ngamba Island embarked on a remarkable journey, opening its doors to 15 orphaned and rescued chimpanzees. Today, with a heart filled with pride, I'm glad to announce that Ngamba Island is home to 53 thriving chimpanzees. Thank you. A testament to what can be achieved when collaboration, dedication, and purpose align. As a ministry, we are committed to the conservation of chimpanzees and their habitats, whose success depends on cooperation beyond borders and individual efforts. This resonates well with the theme of the event, which is partnership for coexistence. The ministry has partnered with local communities, NGOs, and international stakeholders to create a holistic approach to chimpanzee conservation. Through innovative programs, we have worked tirelessly to ensure the protection of these endangered species. And our efforts include several activities, but among others, designation and maintenance of protected areas, combating illegal trade in chimpanzees and their parts, community-based conservation initiatives, supporting scientific research to better understand chimpanzee behavior, their health and ecology, raising awareness and building a generation of informed conservation advocates. The ministry has supported the development of infrastructure at the sanctuary. For instance, in 2017, as a one-off grant, we extended the construction of the current electric fence for the protection of the chimpanzees at the sanctuary. And I believe this has gone a long way in creating a safe haven for the chimpanzees. And in order to strengthen the existing collaboration and strategic interventions and future commitments, we are currently developing a memorandum of understanding with the Chimpanzee Trust, which I believe will be signed very soon. It is known that tourism is the leading or among the leading foreign exchange earners, and therefore any revenues realized from the sanctuary contributes to the stock of our GDP. However, a sustainable future for both wildlife and communities hinges on responsible and ethical tourism. So we don't want just to promote tourism for the sake of generating more money, like our chief guest was saying yesterday. It's not just about the chimpanzees bringing in money, but it's also about their lives as beings. It is heartening to note that our efforts to promote Ngamba Island as a beacon of responsible tourism have yielded remarkable results. So as we celebrate Ngamba's 25 years under the theme Partnerships for Coexistence, let us recommit ourselves to the journey ahead. Together as partners, as guardians and advocates, we shall ensure that the story of Ngamba Island continues to inspire and that the legacy we leave for future generations is one of harmony between humans and chimpanzees. As I conclude, may I thank all of you for your invaluable contributions and your endeavors so far committed to the conservation of wildlife generally, but specifically to the chimpanzees. In a special way, allow me to thank the organizing committee for this excellent event that they have put together and the several events. We've had a week of events, and we want to thank the committee, of course chaired by Dr. Rukundo. We deeply appreciate. Thank you. And to Dr. Jane Gudo, I confess that all this celebration could not have been possible had you not conceived the idea to have a refuge for these precious beings. We thank you most heartily. To all our development partners and donors, you are very, very much appreciated for your generosity and continued support. Thank you for being here, and please enjoy yourselves.
Thank you so much, Minister, for those wonderful words. Another round of applause, please. Before the Minister leaves, we would like to award a couple of upstanding and outstanding individuals, starting with the Exemplary Service Award. And this award honors individuals who have consistently gone above and beyond in their service to Ngamba, showing consistent, exceptional dedication and commitment and dedication to Ngamba Island over the last 25 years. Allow us to celebrate the following people. In absentia, Ora, the General. A round of applause, please. Innocent Ampire, please come up quickly. In absentia, we also want to celebrate Deborah Cox, Debbie Cox, and Professor Ephraim Kamontu. Please join us on stage to receive this award.
Purchase your tracks today.
A round of applause as we invite the State Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities.
Good evening, everyone. Forgive me, I have a very small text to read from, so if I have challenges, forgive me, I wouldn't get the Honorable Kamuntu, my senior, and the former Minister of Tourism, the Permanent Secretary, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of agencies that are here with us, WEC, UTB, UA, board members and executive directors of affiliated institutions, representatives of NGOs, representatives of the media, all of you invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, in a special way, our special guest, Dr. Jane Gudo, and all the members from the various institutes across the globe. It is an honor for me to be here at this gala dinner where we gather to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the existence of the Chimpanze Trust, which is famously known as Ngamba Island Chimpanze Sanctuary. I wish to welcome you all to this gala dinner. Today marks a momentous occasion when we celebrate the remarkable achievements of dedicated efforts in wildlife conservation with outstanding successes achieved in safeguarding our precious wildlife and natural resources. Since 1986, the government of Uganda, under the visionary leadership of His Excellency the President, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and with unwavering commitment through meticulous, planned, robust policies and focused action, we have witnessed a resurgence in the population of various species, including chimpanzees. Through focused conservation policy, legal and institutional framework established by the goodwill of government, we have witnessed the participation of several different stakeholders, including civil society, private sector, communities, partnerships in the conservation of wildlife and natural resources, generally leading to a revamp in the tourism industry. Whereas pockets of illegal activities such as poaching, habitat destruction, and the illegal pet trade still persist, government has put in place robust mechanisms, including the establishment of the National Wildlife Crime Coordination Task Force, strengthened customs and control checkpoints, enhanced interagency collaborations, better equipment, robust surveillance, and intelligence, among others, which has yielded tangible results over the last 25 years. There has been a drastic reduction in these illegal activities. For instance, reported incidents of illegal pet trade involving chimpanzees have reduced from 76 cases in 2001 to a mere 7 cases in the past year, which I think is a tremendous achievement. This represents a phenomenal reduction. This represents a phenomenal reduction of 91% in illegal pet trade cases. Since 1998, government has designated an additional 1.2 million hectares of land as protected areas, providing essential habitat for countless species and further bolstering our conservation efforts. Establishment of community-based conservation programs have positively impacted both wildlife and people. Through these programs, we have seen a 50% reduction in human-wildlife conflict incidences, fostering a more harmonious coexistence between the communities and the wildlife. Commitment to wildlife conservation, in addition to protecting our natural heritage, has contributed significantly to our economy. Tourism revenue generated from the wildlife-related activities has experienced a steady growth of 8%, at least 8% annually over the last 2 decades, providing economic opportunities for our people and promoting sustainable development. The numbers are not statistics. They signify the power of collaboration and the potential of tourism to drive positive change. The statistics are efforts of dedicated individual communities and organizations that have shared in our vision for thriving biodiverse Uganda. As we celebrate the 25th anniversary of Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary, let us reaffirm our commitment to continued conservation, sustainable development, and the protection of our invaluable natural resources. The Minister of Tourism is committed to fostering partnerships that transcend boundaries, cultures, and backgrounds, embracing the shared vision of the coexistence and harmony with the natural world. As I conclude, may I remind ourselves that as we celebrate 20 years of existence of Ngamba Island and the remarkable strides gained in conserving our chimpanzee populations and curbing illegal wildlife activities, this is a collective effort It is a celebration of the dedication of every individual, every community, and every partner who has contributed to this noble cause. Together we have shown the world the power of unity in safeguarding natural heritage. And I am confident that we'll continue to create a legacy of excellence in safeguarding our environment for generations to come. And of course, in a special way, just to add my voice to the others that have spoken before me, to thank all the various partners. I think when Rukundo displayed the list, quite a number. I want to thank you for your efforts in supporting government to see that we achieve conservation of wildlife. But in a special way, to thank Dr. Jane and the GGI institution for being part of this journey for the last 25 years. We wouldn't have this celebration if it weren't for you. And to thank the entire team that came before us, that has been part of this journey and made it a success to date. And of course, congratulate the current leadership. I only noticed one thing when the team came, and I was asking Dr. Jen, because there were quite a number, and I'm sure not all of them were present. And when you look at the video of the young man who they showed us going to the island, he said he had, of course, gone to do conservation, but also to support his family back home. So this is beyond conservation. This is also taking care of the other Ugandans that participate in the conservation. So you can imagine how many lives that have been impacted for the last 25 years and will still be impacted for the next I don't know how many years because of the effort and sacrifice that you put into this. So we don't take this lightly. We thank you as government, and we hope that this wonderful work that you started continues. I think let's give her a special... When we had the dinner with the Mama Janet, the first lady, she said she has a few months to reach 90. I've been following the activities. The Honorable Minister is not here with us today, but he was with you yesterday. That she has done the few days she has been here, and those that she's yet to do before she departs, is really a sign of commitment. My prayer is that we don't let this, we won't let you down, even as you go confident knowing that this island will grow. You've seen a wonderful team, and as government, we'll even commit more support to this very noble cause. With those few remarks, I wish you a wonderful evening, and I wish Ngamba another 125 years. Thank you so much.
The Honorable State Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Martin Mugarura. Thank you so much. A round of applause.
Thank you.
Honorable, please do stay behind to help us award the people who've been a part of this journey as we celebrate innovation and sustainability in chimpanzee conservation. Join me in welcoming Jane and Paul Goldring of GNC Tours. This award that is being given to Jane and Paul Goldring is in recognition of the impact, their actions and activities that have had on the welfare of the chimpanzees at Ngamba Island, on the sustainability of the sanctuary, respectively. This award recognizes the initiatives that have contributed to Ngamba's growth and sustainability over the past 25 years, improving welfare and pioneering sustainable tourism at Ngamba Island. Joining us right after them to receive the Conservation Champion Award are two individuals that we'd like to celebrate tonight. Lilia Jarova and George Oweyesigire. These individuals have shown commitment. Thank you so much to the Goldrings.
Thank you very much indeed to Ngamba Island too. It's been a wonderful journey. All the best.
Receiving the next award is Lilia Jarova and George Oweyesigire. And these individuals have shown commitment over the years from their early careers to date to wildlife conservation and in particular of chimpanzees in Uganda.
Purchase your tracks today.
Thank you very much. I'm glad and happy, excited to associate myself with a successful journey. But with a sad and historical perspective, when we participate in the rescue of some of these chimpanzees, you also feel that they are very traumatized, but also they are attached to us. They are our closest relatives indeed. And if you allow me a second, 2 chimpanzees that I participated in their rescue, one around Bulindi on the Masindi side, where the chimpanzee had been, a young chimpanzee had been kept in a kitchen for close to 2 months after the mother had been killed in a sugarcane plantation. And we worked with the Jane Goodall Institute volunteers to rescue this chimpanzee, and that individual, or the young one, was brought to the island, and I'm glad it still exists at the island. The second chimpanzee, I worked closely with my brother and Ndugu, Dr. Peter Appel. Dr. Peter Appel, this was an exciting one. We got to know that there was an individual keeping a young chimpanzee south of Bugoma Central Forest Reserve, near Changwari refugee settlement. So we sang into action, got the support of Uganda Wildlife Authority. We picked some rangers from Masindi. We got some police officers from Hoima, and we proceeded to Changwari, moved through the villages until we reached this very site. And what do we discover there? We found this individual, who happens, I will not mention the name, to be a reverend father, is keeping 2 monkeys, 1 young chimpanzee, the infant, and a baboon. And we had 1 Land Cruiser, that was in 2008, I think. And we couldn't confiscate the chimpanzee and the baboon and put them in this very vehicle. They would fight there. So what we decided, with the guidance from my colleague, Dr. Pell, who is an expert in wildlife handling, he said, let's first rescue the endangered chimpanzee, then we'll come for the baboon. So we picked the chimpanzee. It took us a time, about 2 hours, to get the chimpanzee into the car, because it was used to the other individuals. For us, we were foreigners, we were strangers. So we bought some bananas and tried to cut and convince, and until we attracted the chimpanzee into the vehicle and drove it to the island. Now I would like to appreciate the efforts of the initial managers, Miss Riri Ajorova. You've done a great job. Thank you very much. And we continue to work together, fortunately. And of course, your colleague who has taken over, Dr. Rukundo. And Honorable Minister, thank you for recognizing my efforts.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua. I want to thank you for your leadership with the team for organizing the celebration of 25 years of Ngamba. Of the 25 years, I had the leadership of Ngamba for 14 years. So you have to keep going. Honorable Minister, thank you very much for gracing this occasion this evening. You were with us the other day as well, so thank you. And of course, the special thanks is to Jane, Dr. Jane Goodall. It's all because of you that we are here. It's all because of you that we are doing what we are doing. I personally have tried to follow your steps. I don't think I'll ever catch up, but for what you started doing with the chimps and to what you want your legacy to be, roots and shoots, I also had to move on from Ngamba, from the animal welfare. Now, right now, I'm heading the Uganda Tourism Board to try and promote ecotourism and make sure that we are not only generating revenue to the economy of Uganda, but also taking care of the people. But one thing that I will always remain very proud of is that Chimpanzee Trust, under my leadership, we were able to influence policy. That we got the payment for ecosystem services policy enacted into the National Environment Management Act. And that is the power of Chimpanzee Sanctuary and Wildlife Conservation Trust as an institution. And with that, I thought moving into government should also give me a better opportunity to influence other policies of government, and we look forward to many more. But I would like just to say that 25 years sounds like a lot of years, time that has passed, but it's not for Ngamba Island, because we know that for chimpanzees in captive environments, when well taken care of, they can live up to over 70 years. There is a record of that. So Ngamba still has a long way to go. I think the youngest chimp at Ngamba Island is just 6 months old. So we are not talking just another 25 years from now. We are talking so many more years to come. So thank you so much, Dr. Jane Goodall. Thank you, the board members, the staff. I'm so proud of you. I believe that you're even doing better under the leadership of Joshua, and continue to grow. We love you, and I will forever remain part of Ngamba and the chimps. Thank you.
Absolutely inspiring. Honorable Minister, we continue to celebrate the Collaboration and Partnership Awards, where we're recognizing partners. These institutions have consistently partnered with Ngamba Island to support its activities and enable them to achieve its goals. Starting with Sheraton Kampala Hotel, we'll have a representative from them. The Uganda Wildlife Education Center, Uganda Wildlife Authority, and the Ministry of Wildlife and Antiquities.
Purchase your tracks today.
Yes, for sure. I have to take this opportunity just to talk about the partnership between Wildlife Authority, between the wildlife in general, not just the authority, and tourism sector. Thank you for Honorable Minister. He's always supporting us, and we are trying to support the wildlife. You know, tourism or hospitality, it's a bit different from the wildlife, especially we are in the center of the city. But always we are in a partnership with Uganda Wildlife, with Chimpanze Trust, with Tourism, Ministry of Tourism, with UTB, with everybody related to the industry. So really, I thank you. I feel jealous that I'm not part of the board member of Chimpanze. But really, it's really interesting what I saw in the video, what I hear here. It's really interesting. So I wish in my future if I can make it and I can join as a volunteer. And thank you for Dr. Goodall. It's really a pleasure meeting you, and really I'm flattered that I met you this year, and I keep it always in my and my future stories I'm telling to my kids. So I wish you all the best and thank you very much, and wish you a pleasant night.
What he has been too modest to mention is that we've just entered a partnership with the Sheraton Hotel for the next 5 years, where they have committed to giving us support worth $2,500 every year, mostly in kind, for the next, at least first starting 5 years. So after the 5 years, we'll reassess where they can be on the board.
Well, on behalf of the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, I would like to appreciate this award for the partnership and support we've been giving the island. We promise that we shall continue supporting so that our animals can have good welfare and husbandry. Count on our support. Thank you very much.
And UAC has given $5 million to an endowment fund for this year. And we also signed another MOU with them for more budgetary support in the coming years. Our big brother is the biggest brother here, so he has a lot more to say in terms of money.
Thank you for this award. The role of Uganda Wildlife Authority is to manage wildlife, both in protected areas and outside of it. And so Ngamba Sanctuary is only doing the work on our behalf. And because of that, this year we are making a small contribution of 25 million shillings, but we'll do better next year when we have appropriately planned. Thank you.
And it's not possible to talk about collaboration and partnership without celebrating the Jane Goodall Institute. Our final award to be given by the Minister is to the Jane Goodall Institute.
All the Jane Goodall Institute.
And for the moment we've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce somebody. I can't introduce her. She introduces herself. She's our main speaker tonight, a global icon, a motivator, an inspiration. She's personally touched me and motivated me through the years, and I'm sure many people in this room. Ladies and gentlemen, let's stand up and welcome Dr. Jane Goodall.
Thank you so much for such a warm, wonderful welcome. And thank you for all the words that have been said about me, which I don't really feel I deserve. And I can only do it because of all those who've supported me, and that includes the chimpanzees. But I'm going to greet you. Every single one of us in this room is a primate. Biologically, we are the 5th great ape. So you get the orangutan in Asia, then you get the gorilla, the little bonobo, and the chimpanzee. And the 5th one is us. So I greet my fellow primates. And we've had quite a lot of chimpanzee calls, so I won't bother to greet you in Chimpanze. I just wanted to say a couple of words about why I was interested in sanctuaries in the first place. I think the very first captive chimp I saw that broke my heart was in the DRC, and it was in a market, and there were very tall Africans standing around laughing, and it was very hot, and there was a tiny little cage, and tied up with a rope on top of that cage was a little chimpanzee, maybe 1.5 years old, and he was curled up on his side, and he looked with dull, blank eyes, and he looked very close to death. So I went over to him, and I knelt down, and I made the little sound of chimpanzee greeting. He sat up, he looked at me, and he reached out his little hand. Well, we couldn't buy him, that just perpetrates the trade. But luckily, the American ambassador was able to go to the Minister of Environment, who sent a policeman, and we went with the policeman that evening. I think they'd had word of it, that marketplace was deserted, and there was just this little cage with a chimpanzee tied on it by a rope. And with that little hand reaching out, it reached into my heart. And that began my very long struggle to work with the various dedicated people who are making sanctuaries, who are helping to rescue chimpanzees from various horrible situations in which we humans put these relatives of ours. When I very first came to Uganda, there was the Entebbe Zoo, which wasn't really a zoo, it was, I don't know what you want to call it, but there were 5 baby chimps. And they were in a little tiny cage, not much bigger than this podium, well, maybe 3 times as big. And it was just chicken wire. Luckily, they were small, or they would immediately have broken out. And they just sat huddled. There was nobody cleaning, nobody dared go in. There was no enrichment for them. And they just sat with these dull, blank eyes. And I knew I had to try to do something. And luckily, I found an ex-London zookeeper, Christine Manning, and with her parents' support, and they paid for an old Land Rover for her, she began the enrichment program. And one of the first things that she gave these little chimps to do, because they suffer terribly from boredom like we would, was paper and pencil and crayons. And some of them began to draw. And one of them, Peace, I'm told, is still at Ngamba. So gradually from that small beginning, more people began to help Christine. Then we managed to raise some money to build a bigger and better cage, and the rest of the history you know. But I thought I'd like to let you know how it was that I became involved. And the Jane Goodall Institute started not only in Ngamba, but we also started Chimpunga Sanctuary in the Republic of Congo, which has nearly 200 chimpanzees. So can you imagine the effort to find the money? So all of them have been rescued from horrible situations. Then in Burundi, another chimpanzee who I'll never forget was in a tiny, what used to be an outhouse at the back of the house. It was dark, there was no window in it. And this chimpanzee, whose name was Whiskey, had a chain around his waist. And I just went over and put my arms around him. I knew we had to rescue him. And there was another one. And this was really even worse. He was about 1 year old, a tiny little thing. And he had a rope around his waist, and it had actually built into his flesh. And it took a long time for him to get over the trauma. So we started what we called the halfway house in Burundi, and then they moved over to Sweetwater in Kenya. And many of them are still living there. That sanctuary has enlarged. And then chimpanzees rescued from pets and circuses. There's another sanctuary that we began in South Africa called Chimp Eden. And sanctuaries, you know from Ngamba Island the problems that you've had, the problems with raising money, getting enough food, the hard time you had during COVID, the floods, and so on that can make life so difficult. And it's the same with all the sanctuaries. But there's one in Africa, maybe some of you have heard of it. It's in the DRC, and it's called JACK. I can't remember what that stands for, but we talk about it as Jack. And they started off with no money, they didn't have good conditions, but they were rescuing chimpanzees, and gradually people came in to support them. So just last year, and I'm sure many of you have heard about this, or maybe earlier this year, 3 of the newly arrived babies who were just getting over the horrible trauma of losing their mothers were kidnapped in the middle of the night. One of them was seen with chains around his waist, and we've not been able to find them. Almost for sure they've been trafficked in this trade that's going to the Middle East, China, and other Asian countries. But it's a heartbreaking thought to think that we rescued them, or they rescued them, and then just as they were beginning to come out of the trauma with a little spark in their eyes, they're taken off to some unknown fate. I also remember the first time I met a chimpanzee in a medical research laboratory. Also taken, actually this one was from the wild. He'd been in this lab for 25 years. His cage was 5 foot by 5 foot, and his name was Jojo. And I knelt down in front of his cage. I had a mask on, and I was thinking of the chimps in the wild, how they lie in comfortable nests or sprawl out on the ground. They groom and they play. And he was alone. There were other chimps in the room, but they couldn't interact or touch each other. And in this tiny cage with a cement floor, there was nothing. There was nothing except occasionally people with white coats coming in, yes, sometimes to feed them, but very often followed by a painful medical procedure. And as I knelt down in front of Jojo, he was a very gentle chimpanzee, and he reached out and he gently wiped the tears away that were running down my cheeks. And that started I just knew I had to try and do something, and luckily in all these situations there are other people who are compassionate, like so many in this room. And so a very long fight, but gradually all chimpanzees, all medical procedures have stopped on our chimpanzee relatives in the laboratories. So, enough about the sad stories. I want to just tell a few stories because I think the time has come now when we need to join in the spirit of 25 successful years and a commitment from so many people to carry this forward. And as Lily says, 25 years is only a small part of a chimpanzee's life, and as long as young ones keep coming in, then we're committed. We have to go on supporting those chimpanzees. We can't leave them on the island unattended. So just a few stories, which I find, this is why we have to save them, because they're such amazing beings. And one story I want to tell, well, there's 2, and they're chimpanzees actually in zoos, but on islands in zoos, so quite good ones. I mean, there's a group of chimps, and there's space and climbing things and enrichment, modern zoos. So in one case, the first one is about a chimpanzee called Old Man. He wasn't that old. He was rescued from medical research. And he was put on an island with 3 females, 2 rescued from a circus, 1 an ex-pet. And the man looking after them was called Mark Cusano. When he started this work as a keeper, he was told, don't go anywhere near them, they're very dangerous, they'll try to kill you. So Mark would row out his little boat and throw the food onto the island. Well, he began watching them. He saw how their behavior was so like ours. And he felt, I can't carry on with this job. unless I have some kind of relationship with them. So he began going closer and closer. And one day he held out a banana and Old Man took it from his hand. One day he dared step onto the shore of the island and actually groomed Old Man. And one day Old Man turned and groomed him. The females kept away, but they didn't do anything. Until one day, how did it work now? Anyway, something happened, and the females started to attack Mark, all three of them. Because, oh yes, that's right, one female had a baby, Mark slipped on muddy ground and frightened the 2-year-old baby that Old Man loved. Obviously, he was the father. And the baby screamed, and so the three females turned on Mark and began attacking him badly. And then Mark looked up, he was still lying on the ground. Now he sees Old Man thundering across the ground with his hair erect and looking furious, and he thought, well, I'm going to die. But what happened? Old Man pulled away these three females and kept them off, screaming and angry, while Mark dragged himself, badly wounded, to the boat and safety. And he was a long time in hospital. I met him there. And the other one is the other way around. This was a male who'd been a pet. He had no experience of other chimpanzees. And there was this zoo with a moat around it, and they put him, just put him onto this island with the other males. And he was terrified when the other males displayed. He cowered away, and on this occasion, he was so frightened that he managed to get over the safety railing that was built to stop the chimps drowning in the deep water beyond. And they can't swim. So this chimpanzee, he was also called Jojo, not the same Jojo, and he sank. He came up gasping for breath. He sank again, once more came up, and then the third time he disappeared. There was a keeper on the other side of the moat. He just watched. But there was a man there with his wife and 2 little girls, and he jumped in. He jumped in, he got hold of Jojo, he dragged him to the safety of the shore, actually getting him over that safety barrier, the railing that was built. And Jojo was unconscious, but he was alive, and a little bit of water came out of his mouth. And Rick turned to go away. Everybody was screaming at him. The other males were coming down, looking fierce with their hair standing on end. And Rick thought, well, they look as if they're going to attack me. But Jojo was sliding back down into the water. And there was a moment when Rick looked at his family, looked at those 3 males coming down, and looked at Jojo, who was just about to disappear under the water. And he went back and he pushed Jojo back up the bank until Jojo managed to grab a tuft of grass and pull himself to safety. And afterwards he was interviewed, Rick was, and he said, well, when he came up for air the 3rd time, he looked into my eyes, and I felt I was looking into the eyes of a person, and the message was, won't anybody help me? That, I think, is the look that we've seen in the eyes of these chimpanzees who so desperately need our help. And thank goodness there are people like you who respond to that look and reach out to help. And it's not just in sanctuaries and zoos that we see behavior like this. There was a female, an old female, she died, leaving an infant who was just old enough to support himself without his mother's milk, although had she lived he would still be suckling occasionally. He was just 3 years old. Had no brother or sister who would have adopted him. But to our amazement, a 12-year-old adolescent male adopted little Mel. And Spindle carried him when the group traveled. He carried him underneath, gripping on underneath if it was raining, cold, or the baby was frightened. He shared his food with him. He slept side by side with Mel in his nest. And most amazing of all, 12-year-old adolescent males in the wild keep out of the way when the big males are displaying, because they're very often the target of an aggressive attack when the males are overexcited. And 3 or 4 times we actually saw Spindle attacked by the males when he ran in to rescue little Mel who was in the way. Because that's the mother's job. She must remove her infant. And a male, when he's doing this charging display, it's as though he sees red. He's not really knowing what he's doing, because normally they're protective of infants. But sometimes if an infant is in the way, the male will grab, drag, and even throw the infant. And Spindle took on the role of a mother and saved Mel's life. So there was one interesting story, and I've only got one more from Gombe, and that was Gremlin, who's now our grand matriarch. She's 50 years old. She has a large family of young ones, some grown up. But this was when her mother was alive, and her baby brother was 2 years old, just beginning to totter after Mum on travels. And Gremlin was behind. So Mum, little one, Gremlin. And Mum went through a patch of tall grass. And just as the little one, whose name was what was his name? Can't remember. Gimbal. So Gimbal was just about to follow Mum. And Gremlin rushed forward and grabbed him, and he screamed, and she moved him all around. And afterwards, we saw the mother, Melissa, who'd been through the grass, sitting for about 10 minutes and picking ticks off herself. It was a newly batch of ticks. So, I mean, that's an interesting thing. Gremlin thought it all out. She saw the ticks, and she didn't want her baby brother to suffer the tick bites. So those little interesting stories from Gombe. And I'm telling them just so that everybody understands the importance of saving these chimpanzees. So the sanctuaries that exist in Africa, in America for rescued laboratory chimps, rescued chimps from zoos and pets and circuses. There's a chimp sanctuary in Japan. There are various ones scattered around the world. So there are people who care. There are people who look towards the safety of the chimps in the wild, and then those which come into our care in captivity. And I'll end with one last story. It's in the wild again. The first chimpanzee I got to really know, the first chimpanzee to trust me, David Greybeard. And on this occasion, I was following him, and it was right at the beginning. He'd just begun to allow me to actually follow him. He was on his own, and he went through a tangle of vegetation, all thorns and vines. He went through easily, but me, you know, with my hair and my shoes and clothes, I got hopelessly tangled. And I thought, well, I've lost David, but never mind, I'll find him another time. When I actually worked my way through this tangle of vegetation, David was sitting and he was looking back. It looked as though he was waiting for me. I don't know, maybe he was. So I sat down near him, and lying on the ground between us was a ripe red palm nut, which chimps love. So I picked it up and held it out towards him, and he turned his face away. So I rather rudely put my hand closer, and he turned, he looked directly into my eyes, he reached out, and with one movement took the nut and dropped it. He didn't want it. But at the same time, he very gently squeezed my fingers, one way that chimpanzees reassure each other. So in that moment, we communicated perfectly in the kind of communication that probably predated human language. He understood that my motives were good. I understood that he knew and that he didn't want the nut for some reason. And I think it was that moment, early on in my research, that I became committed to caring about chimpanzees for the rest of my life. So on this wonderful occasion, I hope everybody is going to have a wonderful evening. I would like to thank the people who entertained us at the beginning, and these two poor chimps who must be very hot in their furry coats, for being here and sitting here and listening to us. So thank everybody who had an award for all that you've done. Thank everybody who's put the evening together. Thank everybody who's arrived, whether you're ministers or diplomats or caretakers or whoever you are. Just remember you're a primate, and just remember that every day you live you make some impact. And I like to think when I go to bed that my impact has made the world just a teeny bit better. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Jane. I would ask that you wait a little bit and we just make... We have two categories to give. We'll have the honor of receiving the award from Dr. Jane Goodall. And the first one is the Outstanding Support Award in recognition of their consistent, outstanding and generous contributions to Ngamba Island, Chimpanze Sanctuary. These are individuals and institutions that have supported the sanctuary, especially through tough times. I would like to invite the following: Mr. Alain Gotts, David and Christina Moller, Friends of Chimpanzees USA, Friends of Chimps USA, the Born Free Foundation, the Jane Goodall Institute was under this category, but we couldn't make Jane give to the Jane Goodall Institute. So we switched it. Apologies.
Okay, many of these are very good supporters and they're not here, but we would like to request some people to receive them on their behalf. I'll ask Lily to receive the award for Mr. Gotzi, and I will ask Michelle to come over and receive the award for David and Christina Muller.
As we await all awardees, prepare yourselves. Before Dr. Jane leaves the stage, we'll invite you back for a group photograph, so just get ready shortly.
Thank you, Michelle. For Friends of Chimps, Friends of Chimps is an NGO in the US. I'm wondering whom I can ask to receive it on their behalf. But are you from the US? No, you're not. Oh, yeah, I'll ask the lovely couple, and I'll task you to get it there. You came along with Kerry, so please. Yes, please. You will please pass this on to the lady. She has been very, very good to us, and they formed an organization specifically to raise funds and receive funds on behalf of the Chimpanze Trust and Ngamba Island in the US, called the Friends of Chimps. They support our project as well as the Bulindi Conservation Project in Hoima, and they will continue to do that. They've been giving us huge grants of about $60,000-$70,000 annually, and they'll continue to do that. We pass on our thanks to them. Then, if you may. Okay. I would like to ask the ambassador of the EU, because this goes to the Born Free Foundation. The Born Free Foundation was one of the founding partners of Ngamba Island, and since you're of the EU, please pass it on to them. can get a photo op on their behalf. And I'll ask you to get it over to them, please.
There's one more category. The last category being awarded by Dr. Jane Goodall is the Lifetime Achievement Award. The Lifetime Achievement Award in recognition of the significant and sustained contributions to Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary's mission and goals over the course of 25 years. There are two recipients here. Please welcome Dr. Sudhir Ruparelia and the Ruparelia Foundation, and Kerry Stamper, Children of Conservation. Kerry Stamper, Children of Conservation. This is the Lifetime Achievement Award. We have videos that we'll be showing shortly afterwards. Right now, we won't be showing those videos. Those videos will come. But we have the Ruparelia Foundation and Kerry
Please
Stamp.
thank Dr. Sudhir for all the support. Dr. Sudhir adopted one of the chimps and named them Rupa, but has been supporting the sanctuary all this time. Kerry, we had made a very lovely video for you, but
we shall still play it when we have time.
Thank you so much, Kerry. Kerry is a co-founder of Children of Conservation. And Children of Conservation, why we are specially awarding them, they've started a project that literally cares for those that care for the chimpanzees. They have a foundation that raises funds for and gives scholarships to the children of the caregivers in, how many sanctuaries is it now? 8 sanctuaries. Now, that may not seem, you may not fathom the numbers, but for example, Ngamba Island, we have, I already said we have 38 staff. And each of these staff has an average of 4 kids. Now, you multiply that by 8. These lovely guys here do a lot to raise money. They put in their own money. And I don't feel they're appreciated enough. So, Kerry, thank you so much. And back to the board and yourself specifically for getting this started. Thank you so much.
Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today.
To officially launch 25 years. 3, 2, 1. Let's go!
Please. Sorry.
Wow, that is a wonderful.
This song is dedicated to you, beautiful.
Woke up this evening, I gotta be the sense of a woman. Yeah, it's a blood unconsciously feel this way. now get beat and constant pain. Oh, God, oh, one. Ladies, are ready? 1, 2, 3. It's mine, I'm gonna be. Until the king sees the higher place. So you wanna raise the dead. Strength of a woman. Strength of a woman. Hey, she keeps a smile on her face. Until he sees the higher place. So don't you wanna raise the dead. Strength of a woman.
Do we have some regular guys around? Come on. You're my favorite boy. You bring such joy to my world. Tell me I'm your favorite girl. You're my favorite boy. One dance with me forever. Tell me I'm your favorite girl. Me love the way you look, me love the way how you are born. Me love the way you look, me love the way so you are born. Me love the way you take my step in my style. I am my favorite girl. Oh, oh, oh. Me never feel like this on my bond. But I'm a second right since like a brand new. You want me like the right since like a brand new. Never mind, never mind. You're my favorite boy. You bring such joy to my world. Tell me I'm your favorite girl. You're my favorite boy. Come and see me forever. Tell me. Oh, in my life it's a bit like a message. Slowly, I really about I feel like a story. Oh, no, the perfect story. Say, and nobody will ever separate me from my heart. Oh, time and time, I'm a we're gonna tell that big internet. Now you say it's you're my favorite boy. You bring such joy to my world. Tell me I'm your favorite girl. You're my favorite boy. Come and see me forever. Tell me. All of my love is for you. Man, I buy you know what to do. Touch me right, treat me good. Never know about you. Can't let someone like you go. You want to go, you have to know. Hey, no black people, I like that. Me not just a woman inside. Oh, man, me tell him 'cause I'm your queen, everything when me get back in. Oh, man, me connection to the place of your one that me righteous again. Oh, man, you nobody like me. Oh, man, I love you, baby. If I was in bed, sitting at my table like Jay-Z on bed. If I was in bed, yeah, I'm all. It's so lovely, it's so lovely, it's so love gonna live. Just to make me up, just to make all this so lovely, it's so lovely, it's so love gonna live. She wants to be like the people on TV. She wants to look like the girls in the movies. She got dreams, she got big dreams. To see yourself on a big screen. She asked, do you love me? Or do you just try absolutely? Just the way you are, babe. You don't have to change, you don't have to know what you know. The way you are, babe. If you put in a phone, I know you feel that when I do. The way you are, babe. I know me. Just the way you are, babe. My darling. Come on, come on.
no jolly mosi. Bando motu, gonna write on the mosi. Free.